Hello, welcome to Sam Gus Tarot and the 31 Days of Tarot. The 31 Days of Tarot is a um, community effort that is led by Ethany. A link to her YouTube channel will be listed down below, as well as to the Tarot Readers Academy Facebook group, which is a Facebook group that she sponsors for people new and learning the tarot, as well as people in the community who wants to learn and grow from each other with the tarot. Today's prompt, hi Bonnie, how you doing? Today's prompt has been, what are the top 5 most used decks over the last decade from 2010 to 2019? If you've watched my channel, you've kind of heard my story already, but a short recap is I started reading tarot back in the early 80s and continued reading until about the mid 90s, and then I took a break for a good solid 15 years, and then decided to start reading again, start collecting again, etc. Real quick, back in that kind of 15-year gap, I did still read on the occasion, mostly Thoth deck that I had. So over the last little over a year, I've been getting heavily back into the tarot and studying the materials and collecting. And so a lot of the decks that I'm going to show you, with the exception of 2, are still relatively new decks per quote-unquote decade. But a couple of them actually have a history that goes back at least a decade, if not several decades. So I'm not going to do too much of a walkthrough other than just kind of a quick show and tell. So this will be a short video. But the first one off the bat is the old trusted and standby Rider-Waite-Smith deck, of course, illustrated by Pamela Smith and Pamela Coleman Smith, I'm sorry. Also affectionately known as Pixie. And what can you say about the Rider-Waite-Smith deck? It's kind of like that icon that most, I know not all, but many readers have started off with. And to this day, of the 3 major styles of tarot, the Marseille, is it Marseille or Marseilles? Deck, and then the Rider-Waite-Smith and a Thoth deck, of course, are your 3 main styles of decks. This next deck here is a clone, and it's called the Sacred Rose Tarot. And this was actually gifted to me by my wife at some point. And over the years, of course, have come to enjoy it. It is, to me, the artwork has gotten a little dated over the years. And I've been racking my brain to try to remember, here's the back of the cards, to remember the deck that I feel really inspired this one. Because, yes, it's a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but there's a deck in between a Rider-Waite-Smith deck and this deck that I think heavily influenced this deck, and it just, I wish I had an answer. It's like one of those things, like the tip of your tongue, you just can't remember. And that would be this deck. I'm not going to do a full walkthrough through any of these decks again. This is just going to be a quick little episode this time. Let me take this opportunity that if you are also participating in the 31 Days of Tarot, please feel free to leave a link to your video and your channel below. To me, this is a collaborative effort throughout the community, and I simply am looking to be part of that. And so if you would like to share yours to people that come through this video, please feel free to do so. I've got no problem with that. Just leave it, the link down in the description below. The next deck is, when I started back up, was one of the first decks that I started picking up. And it's called the Mythic Dreamer Tarot. And when I picked up this deck, there are so many awesome things about this deck to begin with. Number one, just the name. So to give a little bit more about myself, is I've always been a strong believer in dream work. whether it's interpreting dreams, whether it's using dreams to face your fears, whether it's using dreams to help manifest something in your life that you're looking to do, um, whether it's dreams from a higher power, the universe itself, to help guide you. Dreams, I think, are very, very potent things. And there's something about this deck that is very ethereal and dreamlike to me. Now, it is a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, just quite frankly, like most of my decks are. It's got some beautiful artwork. I'm not crazy about the borders, but the artwork itself is awesome. Here's the back of these cards. And one thing that was really kind of cool is the guidebook for this particular deck. It was actually written by the great Barbara Moore. And the book that came with the package wasn't just a guidebook, but quite guidey. For example, it shows several different tarot spreads to play around with and practice with. And a lot of times when you see these guidebooks, there's just a couple spreads at best. And this one has, let's see, just quick math here. From page 17 to 38, so like 17 spreads. Sounds about right, give or take a couple. It's got a chapter on DreamWork, so of course, again, I knew I had found something special anyway. And this one also encouraged you to take notes and journal within the book itself, the guidebook itself. And so this really, I was really drawn to it. One of the other amazing things is immediately picking up the book, I remember being able to understand the imagery almost immediately. And when I had picked this up, aside from a top deck, I hadn't even looked at with maybe the exception of the Sacred Rose, I hadn't even looked at a Rider-Waite-Smith deck really in quite a while. So when I first started playing around with this deck, a flood of the memories, a flood of the old information just came pouring back. And it was really a quite neat experience to have it do so. So this deck actually is probably one of my most used decks over the last several years, period. Even more so than the Thoth deck because of that reason. The other deck that I got almost immediately when I started picking up on the Tarot again, because I absolutely loved the imagery, was the Deviant Moon Tarot. And this is the borderless edition. And we'll do a walkthrough on this probably in the near future. It's one of my favorite decks. And one of my kind of top shelf decks that I go to. And last but not least is, of course, and I'm sure by now it'll be no surprise as I've been kind of rambling about it off and on, of course, is the Thoth deck. This is actually a relatively new deck from the packaging, as you can probably tell. My deck before this that I've had probably the longest was actually the blue box. And it had the 3 mages in it, etc. And somewhere in my last move, which was a few years ago, could not find it. Still can't. And I remember learning about why the 3 mages aren't included anymore. And you can learn that through one of my older videos with the Thoth Throw walkthrough and the influence of the Golden Dawn through modern day tarot. But it took me kind of a while to get over that and pick this one up. But I finally did because I obviously was going to find the blue one. And my first Thoth deck was actually, and it kind of makes me cringe when I think about it nowadays, is the old white box deck. So over time, I have gifted and passed on some decks that now I look back and go, why did I do that? I'm sure the person who ends up with them, though, or ended up with them, I am positive enjoyed them and probably made better use of them than I would. So all well that ends well, I guess. Anyway, thank you for joining me for today. Make sure you hit that like button down below. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you do, make sure you hit that little bell icon down below so it'll let you, it'll give you some notifications whenever I do put out a video. While a lot of videos are coming out this month on my channel, honestly, it's been a couple months since the last time I had, before January here, it had been about 2 months before I had put out a video. And honestly, I'm still getting used to even doing this whole YouTube thing. So maybe expect a couple videos a month, maybe a couple more outside of January here, of course, because I am taking advantage of the prompts that Ethany has given. Which reminds me, make sure you give her some love by going to her channel or Facebook group and giving her a thumbs up too, and all that good stuff. So anyway, that's it for tonight. You guys have a great day, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.